Today we have a new pen display from Wacom called the Wacom One. Now it's not a Cintiq, but it promises to give a high performance at an entry-level price for any aspiring digital artists and hobbyists. Now the question is, how does it perform? Well, we're going to go over that along with setup and answering all your questions in just a minute.
I ain't getting out of bed today. Keep waking up from the previous night.
The Wacom One is a pen display, meaning you draw directly on the screen. Now it's not like an iPad where it has its own OS. You're going to need to plug it into a laptop, a PC, or an Android device to use it. Now I'm John, an artist and writer, and I do reviews and tutorials on software and hardware that help in a creative process. Now join me and remember who you are supposed to be by hitting that sub button, clicking that bell so you won't miss anything. Now inside the box, the tablet comes wrapped in a nice microfiber type cloth. You can use the cloth to clean the tablet if you want. An instruction sheet, and what they're calling the X cable. This is going to be your power, your video, and your data cable. The AC power brick, the pen of course, and finally this little doohickey that hooks into the power brick so you can plug it into the wall. Now the name of the game with this tablet is portability. It's super thin on all sides, a little thicker towards the top. And along the top of the tablet is the all-in-one USB-C port. We're going to talk about that during setup. The back of it is like a white, hard plastic, but it's sort of textured. It's got two rubber feet at the bottom and two kickstand legs that pop out. Behind one of the kickstand legs is going to be your nibs as well as your nib remover. Removing the nib is easy. You're just going to plug the pen into that little hole, put it at an angle, and pop the nib right out. Piece of cake. I would like to note, in the back of the device, there is no vessel mounting screws, so if you're going to put this on any kind of stand or anything like that, you're going to have to be careful what you buy because these tablets are just getting too thin to have 4 screw holes through them. Along the top of the tablet is a little holder for your pen. And there it is. That's your nice piece of kit right there. Now setup is easy. First, slap the doohickey on the AC power brick. Keep a note of the USB-A port on the bottom of it. On one side of the X cable, you're going to have HDMI for video that goes into your video card. The other is USB-A, that's for data. It goes into your laptop or PC. We'll cover Android later. The other side features your all-in-one connector, as well as the USB-A cable that's going to go into the power brick as shown. Now take that all-in-one USB connector and insert it into the port on the top of the unit. On the opposite side, turn the unit on. And that's it, kids. We're ready to rock and roll, but not before we pay some bills. This pen display is electromagnetic resonance. The cool kids call that EMR for short. The display size is 13.1 inches. Resolution is 1080p, 1920 by 1080 pixels. The panel type is AHVA as opposed to an IPS. The contrast ratio is 1000:1. The color gamut is NTSC 72%. Now we've seen some tablets in recent years come across with a much higher number than that, but again, keeping in mind this display is meant for entry-level art enthusiasts and hobbyists. In other words, you guys are not going to be able to tell the difference. The brightness is 200 CD. I found the brightness okay. On my unit, I did pump it up to 75%. The Wacom One pen features 4,096 pressure levels. It's got a stiff nib, meaning it doesn't move a lot against the glass. There's one programmable button, and the barrel of the pen is pretty uniform with no eraser on the back. Now when I say it's uniform, I mean there's no taper beyond the tip of the pen. It's pretty much the shape of a pencil. Now just for giggles, we'll put it up against the Pro Pen 2 so you can get an idea of the size difference. Tilt is supported at 60 degrees. For those new to tilt means when I draw with the pen straight up, I'm going to get a thinner stroke. When I put it on its side, I should get a wider or shading stroke. Of course this depends on the brush and if the brush supports tilt, as well as the program. Unique to the Wacom One, it actually supports third-party pens. This is the list of pens. Unfortunately, I didn't have any to test, but I've seen other artists test, especially the Staedtler Norris Digital. If you're using one of these pens, you're going to want to look up the specs to make sure they support all the different things we've already spoken about. For me and my use, the Wacom One pen fits the need. I found it very easy to use. I found it to perform well, and I have no need for the other third-party one. Now this device comes with a number of different trials and software to get you going. One is bamboo paper. The other is a 6-month trial to Clip Studio Paint Pro, which is excellent. Adobe Premiere Rush is a video editing application. It's sort of a Procreate meets Sketchbook Pro smash up, but that's not coming for a little bit later. The Android support on this device is pretty unique, and I'm pretty sure is the only device that supports it in this manner. In other words, what we've seen before are tablets that let you draw but display on the phone or, tablet itself, aka a note or something like that. What Wacom's implementation does is the opposite. It actually uses the Android device as your primary computer, which is completely awesome because it turns your Cintiq into something completely portable if you have one of these supported devices. Now, I didn't. And what you're going to need is you're going to either need the accessory from Wacom, pictured here, not available yet, or you're going to need a USB-C hub. Right, so with all that said, John, how does this thing actually perform? Now we're doing some line tests with the pencil tool in Sketchbook Pro. This is usually where I start out to get an idea of the pressure sensitivity. And it's no surprise to me, the gradient is among the best I've seen in the current crop of pen displays released this and last year. Now, for some of you new folks who may just be shopping for your entry-level tablet, let me tell you what that means. You see here where we have light, medium, and hard. That's basically how hard you're pressing down the pen on the glass. So what we're looking for is we're looking for a nice gradient, a light line in the beginning, a medium line in the middle, and a nice dark line when we press down deep. Now this is not a strength of all tablets. We've seen some issues from some other brands in the past, but as you can see, even with a black ink line, we get an absolutely perfect and beautiful gradient, and that's what we're looking for. Now what are we doing here? We're doing quick pencil rule tests. We're trying to make sure there's no jaggies or jiggies or any kind of line degradation as we're doing slow diagonal lines. This is an issue for some tablets. Now as I'm going through this and I'm making the actual lines themselves, I'm noticing immediately this is not going to be a problem with this tablet. In fact, once we zoom in, we see there's no artifacts, there's no line wobble, there's no issues whatsoever. These lines are great. Now, since you're getting Clip Studio Paint, I thought I'd show it to you. What we like to do in Clip Studio Paint is really test the speed of the lines and some cross-hatching ability, which also gives me a general idea how the pressure sensitivity works in addition to the lines I did before. So I've enabled the cursor in Clip Studio Paint. What you have to understand about EMR is that the cursor tends to lag behind the pen tip a little bit. That's just the nature of the technology. As displayed on the screen, I am not making any adjustments to the brush size and or pressure sensitivity. So those lines are getting thicker just by pressing the pen down harder and thinner by pressing it lighter. This is how I'm getting this cross-hatching effect. So from my point of view, this pen performs spectacularly. Now the Wacom One is a pen display, but it is not a Cintiq, it is entry level. But just to show you the differences and the scales of the Wacom product brand, we'll go through it. The next step up is the Wacom Cintiq. This comes in a 16 to 22 inch, it's their mid-range. It comes with the Pro Pen 2, which is 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. Supports the Pro Pen line of pens, the 3D, the Slim, and the R Pen, which is an older pen, but supports barrel rotation. You can't get that on a Wacom One. Last, it's got an increased brightness. So this is like your mid-range hobbyist, low-range professional line of pen displays. Last is the Wacom Cintiq Pro line. This comes in 13, 16, 24, and 32 inches. It also comes with touch on certain displays, although you usually have to pay extra for it. This is your top level pen display device. This is what all the professional creatives use. What do you get with that? Well, you get the best panel. On most of these, except for the 13 inch, you get 4K resolution. It's got the best color probably in the industry, but certainly among the lines of pen displays offered by Wacom. It features an edge glass. It's a coating that basically gives that pencil-like feel when you're drawing on the Cintiq. Finally, they feature a bonded laminated display which reduces parallax. Now the Wacom One does not feature etched glass, however it does have an overlay that gives it that pencil tactile feel. Now why have they done that? Well, because, say it with me class, drawing on glass is trash. Well done. However, in reality, it just makes it perfect for note-taking, drawing, doing PowerPoints or anything like that. That's why they added it. Now it's end-to-end, in other words, you don't really notice it, but it's an added feature that it's worth pointing out because it wouldn't be incredibly obvious to it because they don't really advertise it that way. I've opened up the Wacom Desktop Center. This is where you're going to manage your tablet. Now you can see I have a couple other tablets installed, just ignore all that for now. Along the top, you're going to see a bar to register your device, and then right below that, a link to redeem your software. That's how that works. Pressing down on the tablet, you can see this is where I can adjust my current pressure. If I want to assign any shortcut keys to that programmable button, I'm going to click this drop down, and I'm going to show you a quick trick here. You can assign something called the radio menu, which ultimately winds up giving you almost an infinite amount of shortcut keys. Now I did a video for that, all the panels, configuration, everything you need to know on those things, and I'll link it above. Click this to calibrate your pen using the built-in utility. This tab here, display toggle, controls what happens when you click a shortcut key to toggle between displays. And finally, this last tab is mentioned is how you configure all the different shortcut buttons and stuff like that on all those panels and menus. Please check that video out, you'll find it very helpful and informative. Click this button here and it'll tell you anytime there's an update to one of your devices. You're going to want to keep these drivers up to date because they change over time, and when NVIDIA and such like that update their drivers, you want to make sure you stay up to speed. In fact, the Wacom One will not even work unless you're using the latest Wacom driver. Now if you notice, the Wacom One does not feature any physical express keys. Now that's normal, and that's been the case with Wacom devices for some time. However, they do offer an accessory called the Wacom Express Key Remote, which I have also done a full video and tutorial on. I live and die off this thing. I'm in love with it. What does it do? Well, it allows you to adjust everything from zoom to brush size, and it features 17 programmable buttons to basically configure this thing for any kind of workflow or any kind of application you use it. In addition, you could set profiles to be application specific, meaning you could set this Express Key Remote to have one set of customization for Photoshop and another entirely different customization for something like Clip Studio Paint. It is wireless, although it needs to be charged. The charge holds pretty long. The best thing about it is it's magnetic, meaning if you stick it on the Cintiq, it's usually not going to slide off or fall off, just as I'm showing here on the screen. What? No, I'm doing YouTube. Garbage will have to wait. Okay, I'll do it right now. So this entry-level device from Wacom performs pretty well. As we go through this drawing here, the lines are smooth and crisp. I don't really notice any kind of lag or slowdown or much parallax or anything like that. It is there a little bit, but I mean, working through it, once I start drawing, I can't even tell. We've gone through line tests and tested all the different available features it has, except for the Android support, which other reviewers have gone through it and it works great. The 4,000 plus levels of pressure sensitivity seem to do the job. I really can't tell the difference between any of the higher levels in this one. Maybe that's because this one is so much more accurate. So in other words, you folks who are just getting into market, just because something has a higher number, that doesn't make it better. Even if something has a higher number color, if it's not calibrated correctly, that's not going to do the job either. Now this tablet out of the box is calibrated pretty well. As a matter of fact, I didn't really have to mess with the settings at all. The only thing I did do is, as I mentioned, I bumped the brightness up a little bit. Now it's really interesting that they didn't put the Cintiq name on this device, but when I really think about it, maybe it's not that interesting. The last time they tried to come out with a budget line of devices, you guys were killing them. So I mean, now they're trying to make it very specific that, hey, this device is targeted towards a different audience. The entry level, we don't want you killing us over every little detail and comparing it, even though in some ways I compared it a lot to the other Cintiq lines. It's just to show people who know those devices what the difference could be, because I'll make the argument right now. Some of you folks looking for a 13-inch device that may have your eyes on Cintiq or some other brands, I'm telling you, this device is going to do the deal. I really enjoyed working with it, and without a doubt, this will deliver professional quality results every time. In fact, you can argue that a lot of the devices we had 10 years ago don't even come close to what this has today. Now, who's this perfect for? That's easy. As I mentioned earlier, anybody new getting into digital art, especially if you have a choice between more of a desktop tablet, where you have to look on the screen, but anytime you can get a pen display where there's no disconnect between what you see and where the pen is always a plus for me, especially at this entry price point. And we know these Wacom devices are going to last. I mean, there's really no reason to kind of dip your toes in, especially with the reputation and history they have, right? So this gets a thumbs up for me. If you're thinking maybe you want to go up a level, hang out and watch one of these two videos on either the Cintiq series or the Pro series, and let me know what you think about that in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching.